Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is a group called We the People, and we are all about prison reform. Please join us tonight as we discuss a very important issue that is happening in our prison system in the United States, and that is the amount of corruption that goes on behind the bars by the staff that works there. I'm talking about the kitchen staff as well as the guards and the staff that works in the office as well. Thank you for joining us once again. And everybody, I would like you to introduce yourselves, and the order you introduce yourselves in is the order in which we will speak, okay? Nancy, would you like to start?
Oh, geez, I'm not quite there yet.
Okay.
Pick up me.
Stephen, how about you?
Hey, how's everybody doing? I'm Stephen Bobo. I'm a correction officer myself and an inmate, so I pretty much know a lot of stuff that went on that I did too as a CO.
Okay, and JD, you're with us.
My name is Jason J.D. Rutherford. I'm the founder of Stand for Something Life Incorporated, based out of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Been in and out of the system, was incarcerated for over 25 years.
And Nancy, you're with us from...
Okay, so yes, Nancy Molinari from Connecticut. And I got into this because my brother is incarcerated for life with no chance of parole. But I am not in it for him. I'm in it because of everything that I've learned about all of this and what goes on in the prison reform or in the prison system. And I want to continue on that journey.
I'm very glad to hear that. And Dawn, you're with us as well.
Hi, most people here know me. Dawn, I have actually been incarcerated throughout my whole juvenile and adult life. I spent a lot of time inside of the prisons. I've been in every female Florida prison except one, and one of them is now torn down, and they're having ghost tours there because it held death row where a lot of famous people in Florida, like Arlene Warnos and stuff, were executed. And so I have had some experience with the corruption that goes on inside, and I know that it just gets worse, and so much is being hidden, and a lot of people don't know the truth about what goes on. A lot of people feel like once you're inside, oh well, you're out of sight, out of mind, and with me that's just never been the case. I can't forget those that I left there.
I'm glad to hear that, Dawn. Thank you all for joining us. Stephen, will you please start us off tonight?
Yes, ma'am, I sure will. Like I said, my name is Stephen Bobo. I'm also an author, a book coming out called Conviction to Redemption. I'm talking about my life story as being a particular person and then an inmate and then also inside the prison. But as far as this conversation going tonight it is so easy to bring in drugs to a facility. Ask me, I'm a corrections officer, and I did. I'm not ashamed to say that I did. I know it's wrong. I did. It was easy money. It also got a lot of stuff that I had to get rid of as I was locked up. But what I'm saying is, it was so easy to bring in drugs. I brought in pills, cocaine, marijuana, ecstasy, anything you think of, I brought in. I even brought in steroids. Like I said, it's so easy to bring it in. Just come on and put the people who's working the gate as you come in. They don't scan you. They didn't scan me. I just come on in. It's just a simple fact that people understand that it is there. Prison is nothing but a city inside of a city. And what you do on the outside, you do on the inside, and most likely it's more. As far as the sex with inmates, I've seen CEOs have sex with female inmates. One of my friends was a CEO, and he got busted having sex with a female inmate, and she ended up getting pregnant by him. Also seen male inmates have sex with the male CEOs. I've seen that. And that was as I was locked up. I've seen that. And that's also, and I know that's hard to believe, that story, but it goes on. And I'm pretty sure JD's pretty sure JD got a story about that too. My main thing is also seen the inmates that I was up with that were hugged up with another guy, and they're with their wife and fiance in the mall holding hands, but you were just hugged up with another guy on the bed watching TV, eating popcorn, feeding popcorn to each other. So it's a down low situation again. There's a down low situation again right there, and this is what women who have inmates, have a husband that are inside. Please be careful when they get out. That's all I can say. Just be careful. I'm not saying every guy's doing it, but you need to be careful. I'm done with that.
Okay, JD. JD?
Yes.
Do you want to take your turn?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and I originally started out doing time in the state of California. That's my native home. First time I was arrested was in 1988 when I was 14 years old. And the first time I had actually entered the Department of Corrections was in 1993. And it's just been a revolving door for me ever since. I went in for some stolen property, and we're not just talking about, stolen candy or a couple of stolen CDs out of a store. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in merchandise that was spread out over several different storage units across Los Angeles and Orange County. 19 years old going into the system, and once I first went in there, I clicked up with the local, with the disruptive group inside the system, and pretty much stayed under their wing the whole time, going through the Los Angeles County Jail, because in the Los Angeles County Jail, it's very dangerous for white inmates. And because I run with the Chicano street gang, I had naturally fallen under the umbrella of the Sureños inside of there, and basically had to do a lot more than most people, just because of the race factor, the fact that I was running outside of my race and caused a lot of problems, not only with the more white supremacist type of inmate population, but various different members within my own car, and also a lot of African American inmates as well. So it was kind of like it was me against everybody, and I knew I had to one-up everybody in sophistication and in violence, and be a lot more extreme than the next man, just in order to survive in that dangerous situation. Because for anybody that knows, the Los Angeles County Jail is probably one of the most dangerous jails in the entire country. And not only is it dangerous because of the inmates that are in there make it more dangerous, but the correctional staff, the sheriffs in there are very vicious. Back in the early 90s and stuff, they were readily beating people, killing people, stripping people butt naked, and locking them into mop closets where there was, all kinds of staff and MRSA just lurking around, and all the corners there was mold and rot all over the place because the Central County Jail is very old. Going out of there and going up into the Department of Corrections, you basically stick with your car, your people, and it doesn't matter if you have a step brother or family member of a different ethnicity or a different gang. You are going to be expected to drop them if the riot was to pop off. And California is very political as far as racial segregation. It's not so much that the correctional staff practices the segregation, it's the inmate population that chooses to live segregated like that. And going up in the California Department of Corrections, I've seen more staff corruption on the level of just colluding and condoning the violence or turning their back on a lot of it. Sometimes, there was incidences of inside the shoes, the various different security housing units where they would bet on inmate fights and stage inmate fights for them to go. And I started later on in my terms, I started to become kind of like a jailhouse attorney because I had self-educated myself in there. I received a lot of pretty good guidance from lifers and older homies that were in there that, told me to, take advantage of developing a strong, good education because knowledge is power, and the more knowledge you have, the more of an advantage you have over your captors or the ones that incarcerate you. So I started to become like a jailhouse attorney in there, and as a result, I got labeled as a pain in the ass and, subject to various different cell searches and shakedowns and planted weapons and manufactured cases and stuff like that. And all it did was just feed this desire to want to fight the system even more and more at that level. And going in and out of the California Department of Corrections, I did this all the way up until 2007, and from 2007 till about 2011, I just basically went in and out on violations and maxed out my number. Ended up moving out to Texas and, trying to think that I was going to start a new life, but it wasn't running from nothing. I was just kind of just changing scenery because I was, it was easy for me to find all the same kind of people that I was used to in California, in the streets of Los Angeles and Orange County, and just started running around with the bad crowd and ended up catching a federal bank robbery case and going into the Federal Bureau of Prisons. And the difference is like night and day from the California Department of Corrections from the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Going up into Florence, Colorado, there was some staff corruption, but I had actually met, and this would throw a lot of people through a loop, I met a lot of genuine staff that really did care, but they just didn't really know how to care. And it took somebody to be that person to show them that change is possible, that you could live a better life, that you could actually take advantage of the services that are offered to them, the population, and benefit from it. And ever since then, I've had a lot of staff that's, been really tough on my side as far as trying to get me back into the Bureau of Prisons to be a guest speaker and show the other incarcerated populations that change is possible, that you can get out of there. Like Stephen Bobo, I've also authored 2 books. I'm the co-author with my mother of a book called Dear Mom, Dear Son, Separated by Bars, Not the Heart. That was a book that me and my mother wrote together while I was in federal prison. And then when I got out, I took all the information that I used to change my whole way of thinking and totally reconstruct my life into what it is today. And that book is called An Imprisoned Mind, A Guide to Escaping Our Self-Made Prison. And with that book, I was able to develop a nonprofit organization called Stand for Something Life that means to address the overcrowding, ballooning prison population and the broken criminal justice system at the reentry level, to be able to actually guide the population out off the plantation so that they don't ever have to go in there and be exposed to various different levels of corruption and neglect and piss poor medical and bad food and everything else that is, the driving force for a lot of reform to reform that system. I'm in the business at this point of basically cutting into their profits by cutting off their flow of bodies that are going in and out of that recidivism trap. And I believe that that's one of the most important aspects of criminal justice reform, is cutting off the supply and demand that they have in there by basically shutting those prisons down, because, it's like a restaurant in the streets. If you go to a restaurant and it has bad service and horrible food, basically you just don't go to the restaurant anymore and the restaurant will eventually close. Well, I believe that if we cut off the flow of bodies to these prisons, then most of these prisons would have no choice but to just be closed down, because it's doesn't make sense to maintain a prison that lacks the capacity to fill up all the beds. And that's really my driving force, is to be able to be a part of that movement that addresses the reentry question, and also takes it a step further to say that cognitive thinking and strong emotional intelligence training needs to be incorporated into every prison in this country, along with every single school in this country. And it's a lot of work on this end that I'm doing, because in order to really get the public engaged in understanding how much corruption is in the system and how broken it is, it requires a paradigm shift in society itself to basically understand that a problem exists at the level of society itself, and that society is the main driving force and the cancer itself to the broken criminal justice system, and that in order for it to heal and for real positive results to start to occur, the public needs to be their eyes need to be open to the reality of what it really is.
Okay, thank you, JD, and I couldn't agree more. Nancy, why don't you tell us about the article you've been reading and what's going on with corruption as far as you know?
All right, well, I had a couple of things. Corruption's going on in all the states. It's being ignored, basically, because the people that care are the people like us and not the general public. We've got, 23% of the world population incarcerated. We're the highest country in the world with incarceration. And there's so many issues. These people that are incarcerated, we have the Eighth Amendment, which is supposed to protect them from cruel and unusual punishment, but yet that's being ignored, and they are getting cruel and unusual punishment. So, and they don't fight back against it, or most of them don't. Because it will just make their lives more difficult while they're in prison. And then I read that even after prison, they don't go after it. I think they just want to be done with it. So I think the Eighth Amendment is something that really needs to be pushed and put into place so that it works. I agree with JD. I mean, the whole prison system needs to be completely reconstructed from the ground up, but I don't know how that's possible when it's so big. And then you've got 8% of the prisons that are private prisons. Those need to go away because they're just money profiting organizations. And they're doing no service to anyone. If anyone was to look at their 401k plan, I guarantee you'll find that some of those corporations that run their prisons, your 401k plan is part of those private prison enterprise. So it's something that most people don't think about. The ACLU, this just came out, is really putting a hard push on transparency in prisons. And this ties into what's going on in Alabama and the other states across the country. They want to see transparency, and we all have to support that because we've got to have disclosure. Another thing that was mentioned earlier was things are being kept, under the table and not discussed. Things are happening. It's not published. No one knows about it. And we have to we have to have that made public so that people can see what's going on. Prisoners are killing each other. Where are the cameras? Where are the guards? How are they getting away with this? It's, and that's something that I can't really answer to, but, in my own mind, I think they look the other way. It's like almost not important to them. They don't view them as citizens, which is a shame. Another issue is Connecticut is closing its one and only remaining juvenile detention center. So where does that leave all the juveniles? And there's quite a few in Connecticut. I don't know what the percentage is or the count, but they're closing it, which means all these kids are going to wind up in adult court. And then where are they going to send them? Are they going to be sent to general population? That's a concern, and I've asked that question. I have not received an answer yet. On a side note, I'm actually working with an organization that is in Virginia, and they have a program that helps youth take the right path and keeping them on the straight and narrow. So I'm supposed to be playing phone tag with them, trying to have a conversation about, how it ties into how our youth are taking the wrong path and winding up in prisons. So that's another issue that has to be dealt with. We've got to do something to educate. What I had explained was, my thought was, in addition to teaching them all the skill sets, we also need them to see the opposite side of it, is what happens. We need people to go in and talk about what happens when you decide to take the wrong path and go into a life of, a criminal, and what will happen, because they're not thinking about that. They're not thinking about the consequence. It's time they're committing what they consider to be a minor crime, or it could be a higher level crime. We've had a lot of car thefts in Connecticut, repeated, and I'm sure that goes on in all the states. So they have a program that I will be talking to them about, and I want to see if I can get it tied in conjunction with criminal justice reform, so that the youth are hearing, if you do the right thing and you work towards your best future, you're not going to wind up going down this path of destruction to your own self. Another issue is bonding. That's a big issue. Poor people they sit in jail because they can't afford to be bonded out. That's on ACLU's agenda as well, is making it more fair to all. If you're rich, you can bond out that very same day, and if you're poor, you sit in jail until your trial comes up. So
that's correct.
Or your pre-trial. So that's something I'm paying attention to. Bonding, I think, is a big issue for people, and I've dealt with that with my own daughter, where she was caught doing something she shouldn't have been doing, and I had to fly to North Carolina and bond her out. And thank God I picked, not knowing a bondsman in North Carolina, happened to call one that was willing to work with me, stayed in touch with me, wanted to make sure she was doing well, and that it worked out good. But that was my first experience with bonding. because I did have to scramble to come up with enough money to bond her out of North Carolina and get her back home to Connecticut. So the other thing that's starting to happen in different states started in Connecticut. There's a prisoner that's been released, and this is going on, like I said, in other states, where there's a prisoner that was incarcerated for 8 years, and he's being added to the panel that chooses the prosecutors in the state of Connecticut. And I think we need to be more accepting of these people that have served their time and deserve their rights back, so that they can be part of the general population and have a say in what's going on, because they have the experience in this. So I think it's wonderful that there's a push to get this gentleman on the board that chooses prosecutors. And I'm seeing more of that in other states. There were a few articles that I couldn't put my hands on quickly enough where other criminals are being chosen. We've seen them at the White House where they're released. Some of them, yes, are from the Innocence Project, but some of them have done much longer time than they deserve. I mean, the whole system, whether it's federal or state, is completely unfair. There's no consistency from one state to another. You might commit a crime in one state and get 10 years. You might commit the same crime in another state and get 25 to life. And I think that's a shame. I don't think we can get the states on board with coming up with some guidelines. I don't know what everyone's thoughts on that are, but I think that's a very unfair system where depending on what state you're in, you may get life. My brother was supposed to get the death penalty, and they lowered it to life without parole, and I'm glad they did. And now I've read that they're looking at anyone that has a life sentence, and they can't put my hands on it right away because I wasn't prepared for that part, but where there's a maximum of 20 years for the prisoners that can be released, not sexual predators or people that are always going to be in the system, but for other prisoners where they've made amends, they're sorry for what they did, they want to get back into society. So I'm glad to see that is starting to be talked about in several states, as well as the federal government. And those are the things that I've been reading more and more about up till now.
Okay. Yeah, there are very, very many problems in the system. And Dawn, you are in Florida. Now that is probably, aside from Alabama, known as one of the worst states in the United States to be imprisoned in, because the corruption is supposedly so vast there. Can you speak about that?
Yeah, well, Florida has the biggest women's prison in the United States. It's called Lowell Correctional, and that's where most of the corruption within the female prison occurs. You have, of course, like Stephen was saying, the officers bringing in drugs and contraband and stuff in order to get favors from the females. And you have some of the females that are willing to do sexual favors just for some lipstick. because what a lot of people don't understand is the value that you place on stuff completely changes once you're incarcerated. You have people in there that would probably do it for a pack of Kool-Aid and a Sweet and Low. It's just a lot of corruption. I've seen officers get away with killing people. They talk to you like you're nothing, but then I go back to what like JD was talking about, that there are a lot of staff members that are really decent people. They treat you like you're human. It's the corrupt ones that make it bad. And when these officers that do treat you like you're human see the corruption going on, it's normally from somebody in an authoritative position that's ranked higher than them, and they just turn an eye to it. It would cost them their job. They wouldn't be able to pay their bills, so they try to separate themselves from being involved in that, but they still can't put themselves into a position to intervene. Because it's going to be costly to them as well. I know that there was a lot of them that I could joke around with and talk to like it was a friend, but if they know about the corruption, there just wasn't much that they could do about it. And I've seen officers quit their jobs and leave because they couldn't handle it, or they wanted to speak out against somebody and they know that they had to find another job before they did because they would be fired. I've seen wardens be corrupt. I've seen wardens actually have sexual relationships with inmates. There was a psych doctor named Mr. Poppy who got walked off and escorted off of a Florida female prison called Hernando Correctional Center when I was there. He was actually a shrink doctor that was using his position to manipulate these women and to give them psych drugs to where they'll be numb and they won't feel or have to face their reality. And he took full advantage of his position and was getting sexual favors. He ended up getting caught as one girl wore a wire in there and came out with this man's semen in a cup. Yeah, it was, you had inmates cheering as they escorted him off, and it was just, normal behavior in there. We had a chaplain, and this is where you go to pray, and, people go there because of their faith beliefs in order to find some peace in this world. And the person who's supposed to be a man of God and somebody that you can confide in is also using his position to manipulate and use these people to get sexual favors from. And what was ironic about the chaplain is that his wife was also a chaplain at the prison across the street.
Oh, no.
So, just like, and you have to think, women are gossipers. So you have two prisons connected to each other where inmates are going from one prison to medical at the other prison across the street, and and one inmate's telling this inmate, well, this is going on over here, and then the inmates at the other prison start talking about it. It gets back to the wife, and, then there's a big problem, and it's just like a reality TV show unfolding in prison life, like kind of like Wentworth. I don't know if anybody's seen Wentworth, but it's crazy, and it's a very dangerous place. You're in there with a lot of dangerous people, especially at that one. No staff is exempt from corruption. You have, I know that there was education, a teacher, and she was a female. She had a full relationship with another female. At the prison too. So you have education, you have the psych doctors, you have chaplains, you have correctional officers, you have wardens. Like, I have seen literally every level of staff be corrupt. I know I have seen every level of staff bring in contraband for the inmates. Now, here in Florida, the inmates' families are getting punished because they want to take away the visitation, because they're trying to say that the visitation is where the inmates get the majority of their contraband. So if they got away with visitation, which would be horrendous for the people in there, because that's like their livelihood. That's what some of them have to look forward to. It's the only connection that they have with their families, and it really helps them to be a better person once they get out by having those visits. And they're trying to punish them when I know for a fact that the majority of the contraband comes in from staff. And like Stephen had said, He never got scanned when he walked into that prison. They didn't. They just let him walk right in, and that's what they do. Now, I feel like it would be very important if we just got body scanners, and when the visitation comes through, to do body scans, but also do it on the staff as they come in. How are they exempt? How are they, if there is even a 2% thought that this contraband could be coming in from staff, then they need to be body scanned. They need, when you walk through the little x-ray machine. I think everybody that enters there, no matter if it's a police officer, if it's a news people, if it's a staff, if it's a visit, if it's a chaplain, they need to walk through the machine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, how I feel. But the corruption is very big, and in Florida, females is, female prison, we do have the biggest one here, but I think the largest prison system in the U.S. is California. The second one is Texas, and Florida falls in at number 3, but having the number 1 largest women's facility in the United States. But like Nancy had said, it's a corporation. These private prisons. I was in a prison when it turned private, CCA. They create a demand for inmates. They create a demand to keep the population full so that they can make money off of their backs. And it's like a big business, and that's not fair. You cannot create a demand for inmates. That means you're arresting people for petty crimes. You're giving them longer sentences. The bonding, like she said, is ridiculous, and it's all a chain reaction, and it leads from the streets. Like JD said, we have to break this cycle. And what we need to focus on is, how do we break this cycle? How do we stop them from going to that shitty restaurant to eat, like JD said? It's not somewhere we want to be, but when you get out, you're limited because you have to check the box that you're a felon. You have to, you can't get a good place to live. You can't get a good job. Maybe you don't have any support team. Maybe you're the black sheep of the family and you went to prison, so they wiped their hands of you. The community looks down on you because you're less than them now, because you have that number. You have that label. And what I want to encourage to anybody that's been through it is, don't put that label on yourself. Change your way of thinking and keep striving forward. Know that you're not alone, that people have been there. People have succeeded in not having anything when being released and are making it still today. And you have people to reach out to. You just have to figure out, how to work what is available to you and create that into more opportunities and more opportunities until you have your full plate. And it's possible, but it's not easy. But that's all I have to say about it.
Okay. I think I'm going to address this question to Stephen, because you used to be a guard. I have been getting some information lately about gang members charging other inmates rent to live in jail. And this is going to their families, the expenses, and these families are being extorted into sending money and putting them on books in order to keep their loved one alive while incarcerated. Did you happen to see any of this going on when you were working? Do you know about this, Stephen?
Everybody who's been inside know that extortion happens all the time. Mm-hmm. If you want special things, sometimes you have to pay to get it. Sometimes you want protection from CEOs. You want protections from inmates. Your family has to put money on the books to get it, or accept phone calls or stuff like that. That happens. I know for a fact that under my care, under my watch, I know inmates to pay off the bully of the block to protect somebody, especially like the area nation. Especially the black guys. They find the toughest person on a Crip or a Blood. I didn't have any Crips and Blood in my prison, but I know I had gangster disciples in there. We had some area nation, but we had guys were scared. New guys, young guys coming, and we called them. They were like the worms. I would call them in our prison. We call them the worms because they're babies, and they were getting picked on by the Aryan nations or getting picked on by the certain gang members for, okay, I need you to put these money on my book because I want to do shit, or I want some more commissary. And it does. It happens on extortion. It's the name of the game. The extortion happens in real life, and like I said, if it happens outside, it's definitely going to happen on the inside.
Okay. Thank you very much. Another thing I recently found out that I did not know about is in some states, guards actually have unions. And this happens in California, I do know. California is another state that is extremely corrupt and has been since the beginning of time. They were actually one of the first states to get a union for their guards. Does anybody know of any other states that have unions for the guards?
I don't know of any that have unions. I just know that a lot of them are turning into private prisons, and it makes sense that a lot of them do have unions. I mean, I expect it, but I think that's something that we would have to research on. But the corruption, I wanted to say, from state to state, like, there's levels. Like, we can sit here and say that, California, Texas, and Florida are the most corrupt, but we have to impact to where we have to be acknowledgeable that every prison is corrupt in the United States. I don't think that I've ever heard of a prison not being corrupt, like having some kind of corruption in it. And we have to acknowledge that there's somebody in there that doesn't deserve the treatment that they're getting pretty much in every prison.
Right. Right, absolutely. I think what we mean when we say the most is probably they're reported more often, they're exposed more often, so we're more familiar with the incidents they have.
Like, JD, you said that you were from California?
Yeah, California has a union for the guards, and I am currently looking into the corruption in the state of California, yes.
Okay,
but I am aware it goes on.
If you guys, there's a few people in California that have a great group together, and if you guys go on Facebook, you can find this group. It's called Amend the 13th. I would highly recommend for anybody that wants to know more about their program. Like, JD, I think it would be something that you were really, you could really be interested in, because like you said that you were from California, and that's your home state. So I think that you might be interested in it, excuse me. It's called Amend the 13th, and they really want to bring the community up to where they do not enter into the prisons in the first place, which is something that you had spoke on too.
Yeah, I got quite a lot of experience with California's prisoners correctional officers union. It's called the CCPOA. It's the California Correctional Peace Officers Association, and it's probably the most powerful union in the entire state. Basically, they set the pace for all legislation and policy, and they're the ones that pretty much decide who's going to get elected and who's not going to get elected. Now, they were a big supporter of this recent guy, Gavin Newsom. They were the ones that pushed Governor Jerry Brown through. The only one that they really didn't have any control or power over was Governor Schwarzenegger, right. And he basically came in and he was just like, he's gonna change that. He came in kind of like a populist type of a governor, kind of like how Donald Trump came in as president. Yeah, I mean he came in the exact same way, and he Cruz Bustamante right out of the water. Cruz Bustamante was bought and paid for, and definitely it sold his soul to the CCPOA long ago, and Arnold and Ariana Huffington called him out on it, saying that you're paid off by the correctional officers. And when Arnold tried to audit the system and change it, the CCPOA spent millions of dollars organizing all the teachers and the nurses and all them, and basically told them to get on TV and to start protesting Schwarzenegger, and it became a big deal. I mean, you would see correctional officers walking around in the CDC with pins on their uniform that had a picture of a screw, like a screw that you screw into a wall, and it said Arnold underneath it. So that just goes to show you, how powerful that union was, that they had established a college program, and a lot of us were going to college, and there was a joint venture program as well, where people were basically getting minimum wage to create products and stuff, and these people were getting released and they weren't coming back, so the CCPOA was kind of like, hey man, you guys need to water down a lot of these programs because it's bad for business. And the funny thing about the teachers is how they would sell their soul to the devil in this case, because a lot of the money was being taken out of the schools, and the schools are being shut down so that they could build all of their mini-fine prisons that they put all over the state, because the general thinking was, why have a school? We'll just educate them when they're in the system. And that's pretty much how I got caught up into the trap. And just to touch on to a little bit what Nancy was saying about the Eighth Amendment, to basically parallel to the other amendment in the Constitution, which is the 13th that you spoke of. And it's because of the clause in the 13th Amendment that the Eighth Amendment is basically null and void. Because as long as you have that slave aspect, as a convicted felon, you're now considered a slave. And as long as you're considered a slave, you have no other constitutional rights. You basically don't have any Eighth Amendment constitutional rights. You have no First Amendment constitutional rights, Second Amendment. The only amendment that you basically have is the Fifth Amendment, because they can't really force you to talk. But, that really doesn't matter, because they could just fabricate any kind of a statement that you may or may not have made. So you really don't have a Fifth Amendment right either. And it's I've seen millions of cases. Like I said, I was a prison, what they call a jailhouse attorney, and I would see people filing Eighth Amendment lawsuits all the time, and I always used to wonder why they always lost. I mean, we're talking people that had solid grounds for reprieve, for grievance, and judges would be like, too bad. You ain't got no Eighth Amendment right. And a lot of people would be stumped as to why and how they're able to circumvent the Constitution, and it's simple. It's because the 13th Amendment says we're slaves, and slaves have no rights. You don't have any rights to adequate medical treatment or good food or education or any of these things. All these programs are basically, if they feel like giving them to you, if they feel like in the mood for entertaining some kind of rehabilitation. Because I've said it before that money, tax dollars that fund the prisons are investments. I speak on this a lot in a lot of my material and in my program and in my direction, that I make people know that, get this straight right now and understand this. Lock this into your mind. The prisons are an investment that the public makes in order to keep them safe from people that are considered to be criminal or otherwise a threat to the public safety of society. So they pay this tax just as much as inmate populations extort other inmates. The system is basically extorting the public, saying, well, you're going to have to pay us this money in order for us to, keep them housed in these prisons, and your streets will be safe. But what they don't tell you is that these people are going to get out someday. And when they get out, they're not prepared for society. And they're not prepared for society is because they've been marked as a slave. The yoke has been placed around their neck, and they are now a slave forever. They can never get federally bonded. They can never run for federal public office. They can never bear arms ever again. They can never become doctors, lawyers, join the military, anything like that. And it's because of that clause in the 13th Amendment that says you're a slave. You know, you have no rights. You really don't have no rights. And a lot of people, you know, they get all excited. Well, yay, we get our voting rights back. But really, what good is voting when it's basically taxation without representation?
Amen.
You know, I'm not being represented by a government that continues to collude and ratify a clause in the Constitution themselves that says that I'm a slave. And this is why I don't get into these political debates with people. When people talk about how horrible Trump is, you know, and how great Bernie Sanders and how great, you know, how much of a wonderful, majestic unicorn AOC is, and none of these people. I haven't heard AOC. I haven't heard Bernie. I haven't heard Kamala Harris or any of them say, "Yo, wait a minute, everybody, what's up with this clause? We have slaveryized like a large portion of our population, 2 million people in this country. We've made them slaves. What's up with that?"
Right.
None of them are saying that because none of them care. You know, none of them care. I don't care who they are. You know, everybody, you know, thinks that you got Beto O'Rourke out there, and all of a sudden all the doves are flying, and the flowers are growing, and the trees are blooming, and you know,
it's starting to look like Candyland.
Yeah, he's out there eating dirt down in El Paso. Well, after he's done eating that dirt sandwich, you know, I think he should wash it down with a "What's up with the 13th Amendment" clause.
Right.
Drink big old giant milkshake of that, because none of them are saying it, none of them are doing it, and in all these town halls and all these things, ain't nobody asking that question. So that's why what I'm doing is I'm calling to action everybody out there to get into these town halls and put these candidates on the spot. Ask them, what's up with this 13th Amendment? How come you're condoning slavery? How come you're allowing slavery? You talk about how horrible Trump is. Well, how come you're just as horrible by condoning slavery? You're the government. You're the Congress. You're the ones that are supposed to be ratifying these amendments. It's not up to the president to ratify to repeal and fix the Constitution. It's up to you. You're the lawmakers.
Yes.
So it's like I said, there's a lot of stuff that's going on, and we could talk all day long about 8th Amendment and about how horrible prisons are till the cows come home. But as long as that clause continues to remain in effect in the Constitution, then basically the system could just say, you know what, we might consider, go wait by the tree. We'll let you know when we decide to give you a couple of bones or you know, throw you a couple of steaks, give you a little something extra. Maybe we might give you a school and give you your GED. Maybe we won't. Maybe we will.
That's true.
You know, maybe we might help take care of your dental needs. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. You know, and as long as that clause continues to stay in the Constitution itself, nothing else can get done. That's when people need to start standing up, and that's why I've said it in my video yesterday. More FaceTime, more people talking, more people getting engaged, more people asking the question, why? Why is this system failing so horribly? Because of all of these different little fine prints. It's in the law itself. That's in common law. That's in the Constitution. That says we could do this, and none of you could do anything about it because it's written in there. We passed it into law. We've ratified it over and over and over again. And until people start saying, "What's up with this? Explain this to me," and don't let them dance around the subject and try to go off on their talking points. Really call them on this BS. Tell them, no. I want to know. What are you going to do to fix it? How are you going to change it? How are you going to repeal that clause and make it to where slavery is prohibited entirely? Period. There's no predictions or whatever. There's no any form of like exceptions or nothing. It's repeal all. Get rid of it. Period. And then the 8th Amendment can shine through. Then other aspects of the Constitution could also be applied, and we could have full benefit of the Constitution. But until then, I don't throw my support around any of these political figures because to me they're all the same. They're all being pulled by the same strings.
Exactly.
The show, right? I remember meeting JD this show about the 13th Amendment. It was one of the shows I've done on it, and got so many reports back from it. Some people said it was wrong. I said, well, we said what was right because he's that right. We have to get rid of that because, this is all we say. Me being an American male, we always say, slavery is this, slavery. Slavery with everybody especially who's been inside the system. I'm still a slave.
Yep.
No matter what y'all say, I'm still a slave.
So am I.
No matter where I go, I am still titled as an ex-inmate. Still have that number. Every time I go for a job,
Dawn, did somebody join us?
Yeah, actually 2 people joined us. 937 area code, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, this is Jay Bird. How you guys doing out there?
Well, hey,
Hi,
Jay. How are you?
It's Danielle. Hi,
Hi,
guys.
Danielle.
I'm doing all right.
Hi, Danielle. Welcome.
How you guys doing out there, everybody?
We're doing great.
We're all good. Jay Bird, I'd like
to well.
Good evening. Danielle, it's good to have you with us.
Yeah.
Let's see. Jaybird, would you like to speak about corruption first?
Yeah, it don't matter unless you have somebody else lined up before me. It don't matter.
No, you two are our last 2 to speak, so you came perfect timing. You don't have to wait in line, folks. Good for you.
Well,
We've already went.
I wanted to make sure I wasn't cutting in line.
Yeah. So, Jaybird, why don't you take the floor and tell us what you know about corruption behind the bars?
Yes, ma'am. Well, first off, I don't know if a lot of you know this, but I've been doing this prison activity and prison reform stuff for about a year now from my page called From Inside Out. It's actually a group that my brother started. He's the inventor and founder of the name or the group itself, and I'm just rolling it out here for him while he's still locked up, if that makes sense. So this has been his goal and dream and idea to do this, and he's sick and tired of watching all the corruption that's happening right now in all the prisons, especially the one in Washington State where he's currently housed at. And again, like I said, just for credit-wise, he's been down since 1994, so it's been quite a time since he's been out here. Anyways, what I do is I speak on facts because I'm a fact guy. I like to speak truth. I don't like to beat around the bush. I give out information on my program that is insightful and knowledgeable for people that are going through what I like to call hell in the prisons, and they're being treated unfairly and whatnot, and I'm going to be their voice when they can't speak up for themselves right now because DOC is strict. They don't let you get their voice out, so I'm doing it for them. So that's another reason why I do what I do. But as far as the corruption, yes, I've been inside those walls, so I know exactly what happens and goes on in there. And I can tell you one thing. I've seen some shady activity, but again, it stays such secret in there because they don't want, I'm speaking about DOC now, they don't want any information to get leaked out in the public's eye. So that's the reason why they try to keep it hush-hush. But I'm going to be one of those individuals where I'm not going to keep anything hush-hush. I'm going to step on a lot of toes and make a lot of people upset. So that's why I do what I do, because I believe the truth needs to get out. Nothing can really get changed. Like JD said, nothing can really get changed if the information doesn't get out there and the communication doesn't stay intact. Because a lot of people are intimidated by DOC. And, people are scared not to say anything. So I'm on JD's side, and I agree with everything that he's saying. And I did get the chance to watch his video last night, and I agree with everything that's in it. And he did really well for himself. So, JD, good job, man.
Hey, thank you very much, Jay Bird. And it's finally, it's a blessing to finally be able to talk to you. I mean, I've seen a lot of your work. I actually sent you a join request, joined your group, and I'm glad you joined us over at Stand for Something Life, the group page as well. It really, this is what it takes, for something to really start happening. It takes all of us to come together and come up with some real solutions to basically talk about it, to basically lead the charge and getting the ball rolling. Because and I know I had some people that disagreed with me as far as like copy and paste in news articles, and the whole point I was making to that is that's all fine and good. It's good to share information. It's good to educate the people. But if that's all we do is just copy and paste them, but we don't, come together and try to find some like working solutions, then basically all we're doing is we're just sharing news, and we're not really.
Right. Well, and if I can say this real quick, and sorry to cut you off there, JD, but I've caught myself doing it too. I share what I share, but I do what I can because I believe if it's really, really important to put up on there, I will do that. But, like I said, this is all a learning tool for everybody. I mean, I'm not saying I'm a complete 100% expert, but I will do what I have to share this information. I won't stay quiet about it.
Absolutely, and it should continue. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on there that I actually enjoy reading. There's a lot of things that are going on that actually keeps us informed and it keeps us in the loop. And but the thing of it is what needs to happen with that is, and I can't stress this enough, is that a follow-up with all of that, like reaching out to whoever it is that's creating these articles. I mean, you could actually scroll all the way to the end of the article and you can find whoever's the source, and you can actually reach out to the people that the article is actually about. Absolutely. And start connecting with them. And that's really my point. My point is that, we could read them, we can give them a thumbs up, and we can give them a like, and we could say, wow, this is a great story. All right, moving on now, what's Alex Trebek talking about in Jeopardy? Or, what's the next, who's going to be the next top model? It's a like, instead of that saying, what I really want to reach out to this journalist. I really want to reach out to this person in this article and collaborate with them further. And so I agree. That grows, that grows their message. And that also, right.
I'm sorry about that. If I can say this on top of what you just said, JD, we don't need more people, and I hope no one takes offense to this, but we don't need any more people behind the computer screen.
Right.
What we do need is people out there in the field taking heat at what's going on, getting out there and doing more activities besides just sitting in front of a computer.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm talking about, people need to go out to every one of these rallies, every single one of these town halls where these people are trying to win your vote over. They're trying to win your heart and minds over with this golden horizon that they're talking about, that they're going to put into place, and then if they become the president or get elected into the Congress or whatnot, stand there and basically be that voice saying, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about this? And stay on their bumper. I mean, basically be stuck to those people like a Band-Aid on an open wound.
And that's my goal. That's my goal. But I want to say this if I can. The reason why I don't really get out there right now is due to finances. I can't just pick up and go in my car and head out to these. I don't have the finances right now. I'm not saying that for an excuse. I'm just saying right now. I'd like to get more active out there in the field, but right now it just financially won't let me.
No, Jay-Bird, I understand that. And if I can intervene here, like I'm financially right now, I've done a lot of footwork. I've gone to a lot of rallies. I've even created a few.
Awesome.
And, financially right now I can't, but like you said, right now. Mm-hmm. But that if you were, you'd be there. And you're going to do what you can in the meantime to contribute and to get the voices out there and to continue to speak for these people that can't talk. And, as long as you're involved and you're doing it, and we know that, not everybody is financially able to travel, to go, and Absolutely. Some people aren't able to walk. But your voices still matter. And like you being here now and taking out the time to come in here is very commendable. I mean, if you can't get up and run to every rally, that's okay. But do what you can. Like, I have a lot of people that they're very vocal about it, but they cannot like participate beyond the computer screen because they're bedridden, they're broke, they're poor. I mean, it's been proven that, you know, what U.S. state pays a livable wage?
Right.
And
Well, I hate to say this. I'm on a fixed income, so it makes it difficult for me right now.
Right. But
Can
keep using your voice. It's appreciated. It's needed. And I commend what you're doing.
I plan on taking my show a little bit further and branching out and getting more known with the public and whatnot. But again, even with that, it's hard. I mean, I've advertised on Facebook, but you know, I don't know. It only goes so far, and I'm doing what I can. But I'm not going to be quiet. I'm not going to stand on the sidelines and watch this go down anymore. I'm fed up with it.
Yeah. Can I add something real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, man.
Oh, okay. So what I have done is I've taken it to a whole nother level with the work that I'm doing. So what I did is I officially and successfully established a nonprofit organization.
Yay.
Stand for Something Life Incorporated it's a recognized nonprofit organization. It's registered at the Secretary of State's office in the state of Oklahoma. And really what needs to what's happening with that. And this is what I'm really trying to do, because what I try to let people know, and Nancy knows this well, we've talked many, many times about this. Stand for Something Life is not a J.D. Rutherford nonprofit organization. Stand for Something Life is something that J.D. Rutherford had brought into being. Like, I basically conjured it into the physical world and made it something that's for all of you. Right. And what can happen and what can be the driving force, and I welcome all of you, is that allow Stand for Something Life Incorporated to be about all of you as well. I mean, it could be used in a way to where, like, we can raise some funds and we can officially get the 501c3 completely put into place to where we can start soliciting donations. There's millions and millions and millions of dollars out there to be had.
That's my problem. That's my problem. I haven't done that yet myself.
And what I'm saying is I've reached out to many different corporations and you know, philanthropists and stuff, and they're like, well, yeah, you know, we'd love to donate money, so, you know, what's your 501c3, what's your tax exempt number so that we can write it off. And I'm like, oh, well, sorry, I don't have that yet. Yeah, well, give us a call when you do.
Right.
You know, and it's just like that's the brick wall that I've hit. And the reason why I'm trying to push Stand for Something Life so hard, and I've had a lot of problems because, you know, people shut me down with the, you know, the whole self-promoting and all that other stuff.
I'm in the same boat, my brother.
Yeah, is what I'm trying to make people aware of is that I'm not self-promoting. I have created this nonprofit organization for all of you, and by doing that, what could happen with it, and such wonderful thing that could be done with it, is that if I get this 501c3 status put in, and I start basically recruiting, you know, let's say, for example, all of you as basically members of the nonprofit organization itself, we could start generating money into the coffers of Stand for Something Life Incorporated, and we could start using that to pay for a lot of our traveling expenses, to pay for more like mobile services for people that are bedridden, people that are disabled that can't get out, to have, you know, we have people that have vans that'll drive down there and pick you up. You know, people like Nancy herself is on a very tight fixed income. Right. You know, and you know, somebody to go down there and, you know, pick her up and take her from point A to point B and get her more connected and more involved, to get Melissa more connected and more, to go down there and, you know, let's send a plane ticket to Dawn so she can fly to the Criminal Justice Reform Convention in New York.
Let's go. I'm ready.
And that's really what it is. And what I'm doing is I'm offering this to everybody, and this is why I'm trying. This is why Nancy has worked so hard to create this coalition of group founders so that we can push stuff like this. Because if I have a nonprofit organization, I'm not an LLC. I'm not a business. I'm not making money off of this myself.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to prove a point to. I don't want people to think that's what I'm doing it for either, because I'm not. I don't care about fame or popularity. I just want my voice out there.
Exactly. And what better way to get your voice out there than to basically grow a nonprofit organization like Stand for Something Life and allow it to be the financial backing of all your efforts, of all Don's efforts, of Melissa's efforts, of Nancy's efforts, of mine, of people like Carolyn and Jody Rose.
Credit. I give
There's power in numbers, and we all have our own strengths. So when you put all of our strengths together, then we're pretty much unstoppable. Like, I don't have a nonprofit, but what I have been doing is I have been collecting hygienes and buying a lot of hygienes and clothes. I get
that's awesome.
Gift cards,
awesome.
Shoes. I got work boats, and I take all of these clothes and I go around 3 counties and I collect donations, and I even have some people that send me in donations. And what I do is I get backpacks, and I fill these backpacks up with non-perishables, food gift cards, a cell phone, positive affirmations, clothes, and hygienes. And when people get released from prison or county jail, or even single mothers I have helped out here that are struggling, and the homeless on the street, what I do is to these people that are in need, I take them. I literally travel and I take them these bags. And what I've been trying to get established is different people. And also in the bag, I put community resources to the county that they're going to, which has taken a lot of research. And a lot of these felon-friendly papers that they have floating around social media of people that hire felonies is so outdated that I'm currently working and calling and speaking to corporations to get an accurate list together of who hires felons, who's banning the box.
Right. That needs to change too, because I was going to say, if I can real quick, sorry to cut you off there.
Oh, no.
But the felony thing, I mean, first off, I even hate the word felon. I hate the word felon. I hate how they have it defined, if you will.
It's the F word.
But yeah, I hate that. Exactly. I hate the F word. Anyways, no, they like applications for jobs. They really need to let that go. That isn't. What does that prove? I mean, there's no reason why we need to fill out a certain section in that application. Have you ever been committed of a felony? I mean, what's the point of that? That's not fair to me.
Right. And I'm actually trying to work on that to where I have a list of corporations that do hire felons, and down to the point where if you do hire, are there any charges that you will not consider, like theft or charges like that, so that people are not running around chasing a needle in a haystack. They know, like these people are not gonna. You know how much time I wasted when I got out trying to find a job at people that would never give me a second look? Our time is valuable.
Yes, I've been there, done that. Yes, I know.
Our time is very valuable, especially when we're running that low on E by just having a bus ticket and $50. That's what they give here in Florida, and no support. Right. We don't have time to be wasted. So I'm trying to cut that time in half to give them a list of these people will accept you. See if there's an opening here first. I had so much trouble. I had to open my own business because nobody would hire me. But there are options, and I'm trying to, get it together. I opened a cleaning company. A lot of people, I'm very honest about it when I go into people's homes. I'm like, look, I am a felon, this, that, this. But when they see my work, I had to prove myself way harder because I had that label on me. And, I want to make it to where we have different representatives in each county that can collect donations and hand it out, so I'm not traveling so far and spending so much of my time and money because, I do have a business. I am in college. I do have 4 kids. I am, busy.
Right.
So,
well, I'm pretty sure a lot of you can agree with this, too.
Okay. They're supposed to give your people who's in probation office and parole office is supposed to give you paperwork that says that these are places that you can go try to find a job.
Oh, that's outdated. And when they do, it's still running like a needle in a haystack because they give you a list of 100 corporations, which makes it look like, oh, you're fine. If I can get a job at any of these places, then I'm not worried about it. But then you go through to 85, and by that time, you got 85 declines, and you're ripping your hair out, and you're cussing out everybody because it looks like your demise is coming upon you. It needs to be updated. It needs to be accurate every year because these corporations, these apartment complexes, these landlords, they don't stay the same. None of their principles or values. Their rules, none of them stay the same. So it needs to be updated constantly.
And that's like I said, and that's more of a reason. Everything that you guys have just said, that's more of a reason why, it's imperative that we all coalesce around a common goal and a foundational platform that is rooted in a nonprofit organization. And like I said, Stand for Something Life is that. I mean, just ask yourselves, all of you right now, just close your eyes and picture, how valuable would $1 million be to our efforts?
Right.
It would be very valuable. It
can go a long way there, brother.
Exactly. Not only would it have the ability to compensate all of you for your time, because each and every one of you would actually be elected as board members and members of the organization itself. And with that, other people will start falling in line. Other people will start coming on board like, hey, I want to be a part of what you guys are doing. How can I help? Then you create an advocacy board that can actually go out into the private sector and start communicating with CEOs of companies, people that are actually going in there and speaking on behalf of the returning citizens, concerns and opportunities to want to get a job. You got somebody that's going in there and they're lobbying for us. They're going in there and they're rubbing shoulders with these CEOs. They're talking to them. They're like, hey, look,
that's why I can't wait to do live shows out in the field.
Yeah, and that's why, like I'm saying, that something like Stand for Something Life can be all of that and more to all of us. And it's like I said, it's not about me, and it's not all about I'm not the one. It's like I could sit back and watch all of you grow, because I remember first talking to Stephen. He reached out to me several months ago, and he asked me, where should I start? What should I do? And it's just like I want to see that with all of you, because I can't do everything myself.
Right.
Nancy heard me. Yeah, you can ask Nancy. You guys can all ask Nancy right now. She's heard me go through all the struggles and all the pain and the fatigue of trying to do everything. I'm the janitor, I'm the secretary, I'm the CEO, I'm the sergeant at arms, I'm the board member, I'm the advocate, I'm the plumber, I'm the all of them. I'm the typist.
It takes a village. That saying, it takes a village, is so true. And it takes a village on anything. And there's power in numbers. And like I said, we all have different strengths. So when you put all them strengths together, we're like Iron Man.
Yeah, I can't. I literally cannot do everything myself. And that's why, when I started seeing, like, you guys started to, form these little messenger forums and then coming together, and you got other people that are out there that are trying to form like a united front and all that, and it's all great. It's exciting for me, because now I can actually come on here and say, look, this is what I have to offer. Right. I have an established nonprofit organization that is only lacking a 501c3 to take it to the next level. And with that level, I have the ability to send each and every one of you out a form that legally basically includes you in the organization itself and allows you to act on behalf of the organization in order to lobby and advocate and
that's good news. That's good news.
Just push out the message itself, and it's all aspects. Nobody else is doing this. Nobody else is out there. You got organizations like the Cut 50 Initiative that are trying to reduce sentences and stuff like that. You got FAM. You got other places like that, but they have a specific area that they target. Right. We're dealing with reentry. We are trying to basically bring sense, peace, and prosperity to the lives of the many returning citizens that are coming back into society, and that are going to be stuck with this question of, what do I do now? Where do I go from here? And if you really want to attack corruption in the system, it starts with creating a healthy reentry system that works by basically people that are coming out of the prison, instead of just getting so caught in trying to get a job.
Absolutely, JD, and absolutely, JD, and that's I was making a point on my show. What was it, last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, talking about the revolving door. Yeah, and that revolving door is constantly spinning. I mean, DOC and the system itself has us set up for failure like none of you can believe, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you know that. And if we could stop that revolving door and even possibly even stop the corruption in one way or another, what if it's a small bite or a big bite, I believe wholeheartedly a lot of this stuff can happen and change without any hiccup. It depends on where everybody's heart's at.
Right.
But as soon as you walk in the door, I was told when I was CO, you tell them, I got 5 people right here. I got 5 guys right here. One of you, 2 or 3 of y'all will be back.
Right. You know, when I left, he said, "See you later." I'm like, what?
That's when I walked out.
Don't jinx me.
Listen, when I walked out of prison, when I walked out of my prison too as well, he said, "Oh, well, we'll see you later. You'll be back."
Right.
Well, I'm not. I proved him wrong on that aspect.
Exactly. When are you going back there?
How do you set people up for failure like that? Set the guys up for failure as soon as they walk out the door.
Hey, listen. Everybody listen, it is 7:30 and I'm going to have to edit this and have it running live at 8. If you guys can join me at 8, I'm going to edit this part out so we can talk freely. But I'm going to edit it and I have to have it live in like 30 minutes. So I'm running short, but I want Danielle to be able to get in here and use 3 minutes of the time. And then Melissa can take us out.
Still there? Are you still with us, Danielle?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Thank you, sweetheart.
She's here for good.
Thank you very much.
She ain't gonna know what that's right here. That's my girl right there. That's my.
So, Melissa, if you want to take this time now to get Danielle to speak on it, and then close us out after we'll all say goodbye. I'm gonna edit it real fast and try to have it. I'm pushing it, but I'm gonna try to have it up by 8 o'clock, 8:05 at the latest.
Okay, great. I'll do that. Danielle, go ahead and speak to us about what you have to say about corruption, and then I'm going to close this show, everybody.
Okay, great.
You know what? The corruption comes down to, I look at it from a psychological point of view. The corruption comes down to me, as far as like, well, if you're looking at COs, like, they're like, you know, these guys are already criminals. Who gonna check me?
Right.
It comes down to who gonna check me, boo.
Right.
Yeah. You know, like it's like a bunch of criminals. You know, it's like they look at it like there's a bunch of criminals in here, and I can do what I like. Who's gonna believe them?
Right. You're nobody.
And
you're just a criminal. Nobody's gonna believe you. You are so right.
Exactly, and it's another way of exploiting and victimizing the inmate, as far as I can see.
Exactly.
Because there's nothing worse than, you know, where they say your word is your bond. That's still we're all human beings and we want to be believed. And when something happens bad to us and we reach out for help, the worst thing that can happen is to not be believed.
Right.
And if you're trapped behind bars, which means you can't go nowhere. You can't move away. And bad things are happening around you.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that are in charge of you are the ones perpetrating the crimes against you. But then nobody's believing you when you're sane, or they're looking the other way, or it's that good old boy club.
Mm-hmm.
To where they know it's happening, they see it happening, but they don't care because why? You're just another criminal.
Right.
Just another number.
Right. You're just another number. And Stephen and I had this whole conversation about the dehumanization of the inmate happens when you get that number.
Right.
Because it takes away your name. What is the one thing you know above all else about yourself, no matter what happens, no matter what goes down? You know your name.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody takes away your name, they take away your identity. They take away your humanity, and they take away the fact that you matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't take my mind.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
but you know what?
like
I've seen a lot of people that they did. I've seen a lot of people lose their mind. Like right in my face, and it was so sad. Not only did they take away their name and hand them a number, they took away their whole mental stability. I've seen it happen.
Exactly.
No,
it's like
agree.
the mental stability doesn't matter anymore. Again, and then you want these people to be productive people. Why can't they be productive citizens? Well, hell, you spent 10 years treating them worse than a dog in a pound.
Right.
Yeah. So what did you expect to happen?
Like they can't wake up the next morning and be like, oh, I'm okay.
You know, and it's a shame that the corruptness has to happen from the people that are in charge of keeping order.
Right. Which we see.
Like they're supposed to be keeping order and they're fostering chaos.
Mhm. I agree. And you know what? I made a comment the other day. You just reminded me of it. I said, I believe instead of those in authority positions getting smacked on the hand or a suspension, or I'm talking about the police department, correctional, if you are in a position of authority and you commit a crime, I think that your sentence should be harsher because of the vows that you took.
Absolutely, 100%.
I agree.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
That's a good idea.
How are you above the law? Nobody is above the law. Just because you have a badge of some kind that says CCA or DOC or LAPD or St. Pete Police Department, you cannot break the law and know that you're going to get away from it because the people that you surround yourself with that got your back. This blue code, this correctional code, it has to be broken because you're not above the law. A citizen's arrest my ass. Which one of us can walk up and arrest somebody?
I ain't doing shit. I'm telling you that.
I'm here to tell you that the Good Boy Club didn't work for me. I still got locked up. They still waited for me at the.
Yeah, but are you a minority?
Oh, of course I know that's what it was. I know that's what it was.
And see, that's the other thing though, because it's a double-edged sword to say that.
Exactly.
Because if you say that they need to be held at a higher standard, then that needs to apply to everybody across the board.
Yeah, everybody.
If all of you guys have talked to Bo and know his story to some point, he didn't even do what the hell it was like some of the stuff that they said he didn't do. Some of the stuff he did do. But because it was an election year, he's a minority.
Mm-hmm.
And
they're going to use him to make an example.
Not exactly good old boys with him. He got screwed over 7 ways from Sunday, and didn't nobody even kiss him goodnight.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, I wanted to kiss.
Well,
it's stuff like that makes me angry because the Good Old Boy Club only works for some of the boys.
Right.
That's another.
And you know what? Me, I even see it, and like if I'm watching, we had a live PD here in my county, so I can actually turn on the TV and see the police in action live for my TV.
Okay.
And it's funny to me when I'm watching Cops and First 48 and LAPD, I tend to feel, and this might come off crazy, but I see minorities with these badges and everything, and I'm like, this system is not made for them.
Now you're starting to see the corruption behind the badge.
This system is not made for you. And
it could turn against you at any time. Like, you really feel like you're working with a team, and they will turn on you in a quickness.
Oh, hell yeah. The cops are not your friends.
I know. I found that out.
And it's that, I look at them and I'm like, and a lot of people will be like, oh, this Uncle Ruckus, this coon, and I'm like, it's bigger than that. Like, they want to be, like, if you have a dream of being a cop and doing right and creating change as a kid, what do we say to them? Oh, well, the system isn't really what you think it is. You're not going to go in and create change because it's corrupt and you'll fall into corruption. And if you try to fix it, then you're going to get beat up, fired, and maybe some charges thrown at you.
Yes.
So it's like...
You hit that right on the nail.
Yeah, it's just horrible. But that's a whole other topic.
I look at it as that thin blue line is just long enough to form a noose.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'll say this. All police are gang members.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All police are gang members. That's all it is.
No. Like, not every cop is bad. Not, every black person isn't jobless.
Well, I need to rephrase that. I'm not saying every cop is, but I've never seen really a good cop yet, so I'm just saying.
But my thing is, there's so many stereotypes that we can fill. Like, there's stereotypes all over the world. Oh, Mexicans work faster.
Yeah, I know.
Irish people get drunk and eat potatoes, and I don't do that all day. There's so many stereotypes, but until you know somebody, you really don't know. And my thing is with the whole good cop thing is, if there's so many good cops, why ain't they stopping the bad ones?
Amen.
Yes.
Point taken.
That's a good point, John.
Exactly.
It's the blue code.
Yeah, the blue code.
Yep, that's it.
Yep, like I said, the thin blue line is just long enough to form a noose.
They don't want to be a snitch.
It's back, no matter what.
That was that's one of my good things I used to tell it's when I was in there. So, we're all just one step away from being where you at if I didn't do it.
Right. Do you know that the average American breaks 13 laws a day without knowing? These people could take our life away from us anytime they want.
Oh,
Yep.
That's crazy.
I wear my seatbelt.
They know that, but do y'all know that?
That's why it's such a big secret.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they're so tough.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight, and it was really nice for us all to get together and discuss this. Everybody, please tune in next Friday. We are going to be tackling an important topic. We're going to be talking about what do we do with these sex offenders? What do we do with the child molesters in our prison system? How can we improve that situation? So please tune in next week.
Yeah.
Can I know you have to edit this, but can I add in one more important thing?
Oh, yeah, please do.
Yes, of course, Nancy.
I've reached out and talked to so many people. There's a woman by the name of Cassie Monaco. She has a nonprofit called A Day Closer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It's an organization that helps people that cannot afford to travel to see their loved ones.
Aww.
Now, I did an application. My brother's in Florida. Author Gloria talked me into doing another GoFundMe. I got some money from them. Mm-hmm. Cassie Monaco took money out of her own pocket and paid for her because her committee would not approve me because my brother has a life sentence in Florida. All right, but share with your groups that there's and her group Klein, when I put it out to some people, her organization helps people financially connect and go see their loved ones, whether they need travel, airfare, rental car, whatever it is. They have a website.
Oh, that is so generous.
Wow, that's a good idea.
She has a Facebook called Day Closer as well. So I just wanted to, give you one positive for all these families that can't afford to go see their loved ones. Like, I haven't seen my brother in 39 years.
Oh,
well,
God.
I'm going to see him next month.
Yay!
It's only going to be for 3 hours, but the bottom line is there is an organization. They do take, they're looking for donations, of course,
Mm-hmm.
to make this possible for people, but I don't know what they have right now, but they do take applications for families.
That's awesome.
From families. It's right on their website.
That's awesome news.
So just if you want to pass that along to people you the people you post to.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy. That's a very generous thing that she's doing. Very generous.
Yes, very. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Great job,
you have
Nancy.
Yes, that is marvelous that we have something like that out there. Every day, more and more people are getting involved in this fight, and that is a wonderful thing. So everybody have a good week, and we will all be back next week, or there might be different people, but the topic is going to be a good one. So we will see you then.
All right, this is Jay from Inside Out. Have a good night, everybody.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
You guys have a great night.
You too.
Okay, you too.